For a few days there, it seemed like everyone was speaking out about these three Kansas City Chiefs fans who were found frozen to death in their friend's backyard. The family members were speaking out, neighbors were speaking out, and then all of a sudden, it was radio silence. The family went from doing interviews every day to, I haven't heard from them in a while now, have you? It seemed as if this case just fell off of a cliff, as if this case just disappeared out of thin air. But I now know what the issue is. Apparently, there is some infighting going on. And I don't even know if infighting is the right word. I don't want to misrepresent this situation, but I'm also not involved in this situation. So I don't know how serious this fighting has been, but there are disagreements that are going on right now. There's a lot of disagreements between the family members of the three men who died, because some family members of certain families think that everyone needs to chill and sit back and let investigators do their job. And other family members feel as if they need to remain vocal. They need to keep talking about this case. They need to keep pushing, to keep eyes on this case, to keep this case in the forefront of people's attentions, to make sure that law enforcement does their job. And now, a lawyer for some of these family members is speaking out, basically putting all of this out there, that there's arguments going on about how to handle this situation. And I gotta say, I 100%, maybe not 100%, but I pretty much totally disagree with this lawyer and the family members that he's speaking out for. Nothing against them, but the way this case has gone, I fully understand why some family members felt the need to be out here saying the stuff that they've said. I fully understand why they felt the need to go and do these interviews, to, spread awareness about this case, because if it wasn't for that, I don't think this case would have gone anywhere. But let's go ahead and see what's being said. Angry, speculative theories espoused by family members of three Kansas City Chiefs fans found dead in their friend's snowy backyard have compromised the dignity of the investigation into their deaths, according to an attorney representing Clayton McGinney's mother and fiancé. Okay, let me go ahead and stop right there. Look, I'm sorry, but you know how I am. I cannot sugarcoat anything. No disrespect to these family members, but the dignity of this investigation was compromised the moment investigators left all of these guys' belongings right there at Jordan's house. They did not collect any of this stuff as evidence. Jackets, backpacks, empty pill bottles, all left at Jordan's house. So if we're going to talk about the dignity of this investigation had no dignity to begin with. And if it wasn't for these other family members doing these interviews, speculating, having their own theories, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now, because no one outside of people locally would have even known that these three men existed. But now, thanks to the people, thanks to the family members who are doing these interviews, we know these three guys' names. We know of them now. We know of this case. And there are hundreds of thousands of people, not just around America, but around the world. If you're somewhere else besides America listening to this right now, drop the name of your country or where you live down in the comments below. There are people around the world right now that know about this case, that want to make sure that justice is served in this case, that would have never have known about it at all if these family members weren't speaking out, fighting to get their stories heard, fighting to find some sort or some form of justice for these three men. So sitting back silently, trying not to compromise the dignity of this investigation. Listen, like that story's already over. I understand that in some situations, yeah, it's definitely best to sit back and allow police to do their job. And in a lot of cases, it's best to do that. In this case, we wouldn't even have a case. There wouldn't really even be an investigation. What investigation have you ever heard of where they go and find three bodies and leave the belongings of the men right there at the scene? They don't collect them or anything. Come on now. But let's go ahead and read some more. Although the KCPD was quick to announce that their deaths were 100% not being investigated as homicides, relatives of Johnson and Harrington have suggested that party host Willis played an active role in their deaths. Meanwhile, McGinney's cousin, Caleb McGinney, told News Nation that Willis, an HIV scientist who went to Park Hill South High School, is the chemist. Kagay represents Clayton McGinney's mother, Nancy Bozert, and his fiancée, April Mahoney, who discovered one of the men's bodies after breaking into Willis's house out of worry and desperation. Kagay said Wednesday whipping people up into a frenzy isn't in his client's best interest. I think it would be fair to say some of the more vocal members of Clayton's family may not have Clayton's best interest at heart, Kagay said, about interviews other McGinney relatives have given the press. Some of the families who have come out as aggressive or hostile with law enforcement, I think that was premature. Nancy would prefer the kinds of angry, speculating statements that are coming from some of the family members if those wouldn't happen, so the investigation could proceed in a dignified manner. Once again, the only reason this investigation is proceeding at all is because these family members have been speaking out. And if you're sitting here for weeks on end and law enforcement won't tell you nothing about your dead child that was found frozen to death in their friend's backyard, you're damn right you should be asking questions. You're damn right you should be applying pressure. What doesn't need to happen right now, but it's clear that it is happening, we don't need these three families turning on each other. That's what we don't need. But it's clear to me that this lawyer, this Kagay lawyer, it's clear to me that he's kind of cozied up with law enforcement in the area. And I'm no expert. You don't have to take advice from me. But in my opinion, if you're dealing with a case like this one, where they're not necessarily going up against the police department, but you're being very critical of the police department. In many ways, you're taking on the police department head on, by saying that they haven't handled this correctly and etc. If you're dealing with a case like that, sometimes the best thing to do is to get a lawyer that's not a local lawyer. You don't want a lawyer that's from that area because often these lawyers are cozied up. They're entangled with the law enforcement. So they're not going to want to go against local law enforcement because then they're going to be going against their best interest. These same two people who are speaking out now through their lawyer Kagay, saying that, everyone needs to be quiet and hush up and allow the investigation to proceed, they've done interviews themselves, asking questions themselves as well. So I think it's probably this lawyer in their ears telling people, oh, you need to chill out, because he's friends with the DA, or he's friends with this officer and this investigator, or this judge, or this person, or that person, and yada yada. That's why I say if you're dealing with a case like this, you might want to get some out-of-town help, because they will usually not be as reluctant to be critical about local law enforcement. But let's go ahead and see what else was said. Let's wait to find out what the police say happened and what the prosecutor chooses to do with that. However, Kage could sympathize with those striving for answers amid a minefield of unanswered questions surrounding the case. A lot of these TikTok sleuths and people on the internet, people are getting all worked up thinking this is BS. There's no way Willis didn't know these guys were around, he said. There are still a lot of unanswered questions and understandable skepticism as far as an explanation for how this happened. Kage said there has also been disappointment over the way the KCPD immediately ruled out foul play in statements to the press about the men's deaths. I don't think they were in a position to say that. Clearly, there is an ongoing investigation. I just don't know how they made that determination. And I don't know that was helpful to say. When you say there was no sign of foul play, there was no gunshot, no stabbing, but it doesn't mean there wasn't something that occurred that was illegal. I don't know that was handled in that. I don't know if that was handled in the ideal manner. I'm not saying that anybody did anything intentional, but I don't think that it would be required for there to be criminal liability. He also said that some of the department's communications have been a bit unartful. I don't think they did anything wrong, but the situation could be clearer if they had communicated better. However, his clients are supportive of the KCPD. When we get to the end of that, maybe they have some criticisms for how things are handled at the end of the process. So in other words, it seems as if this lawyer basically spoke out to run damage control for the Kansas City Police Department. How much of this is organically him speaking out for the best interest of his clients, as opposed to him speaking out for the best interest of the KCPD? This doesn't read off to me as if he had his clients in mind. This read to me as if he had the KCPD in mind. And they've already been out here in the media trying to run damage control. For the first time in this case, we finally heard from them the other day, and all they had to say was them basically denying that they said this wasn't a homicide. They deny that they ever said that this was 100% not a homicide and not a homicide investigation. So they basically opened up the possibilities of this still possibly being a homicide or there being some type of foul play involved. Now they've totally backtracked. Now they're not ruling out foul play. They're not ruling out anything, even though within the first 24 hours they ruled out all of this and they made those statements. Now they're claiming those statements never existed or that people misunderstood them. So honestly, I think this lawyer speaking out and the fact that the KCPD just spoke out just before this lawyer did, it makes me think that they're teaming up, working together, having conversations behind the scenes, trying to make themselves look better, if you ask me. But you let me know what you think of all of this, because I think that the families have been doing a great job of spreading awareness about this case, getting people interested in this case, so we can get the conversation going, so the investigators who dropped the ball from the beginning will start doing their jobs. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. If you would like to donate to the channel, you can do so via Cash App. I'll have my Cash App in the pinned comment. You can also donate via Super Thanks, or you can help the channel for free by liking, subscribing, ringing the notification bell, and all of that good stuff. But with that being said, I'll talk to you all very soon in the next video.